Welcome to What's New Radio, Extra Time, where we speak with employees, managers, educators, or stakeholders in the energy sector about the services and projects at Leighton Power. I'm Jackie Marshall-Clark, Manager Communications and Government Relations. Joining me today is Nika Archer, Engineering Manager at the Barbados Leighton Power Company in our Assets Management Business Unit. Hello, Nika. Well, good to have you as always on What's New Radio. Tell our listeners what you do at Leighton Power.
Hi, Jackie. So at Leighton Power, basically what we do really is look for ways to, in the asset management section, is to look for ways to keep the lights on, and if the lights are off, to make sure that they are off for as short a period as possible. And one of the ways that we would have discussed last year is through our vegetation management program. And when we talk about vegetation management, that's really a fancy word for trees. And in this, we leverage a technology called GIS, which is Geographical Information Systems, in which we plot all of our trees, determine like how close they are to lanes, and then go ahead and schedule a program to trim these trees.
And you did tell us a lot about that program last year. No wonder you're so interested in this 1 Million Trees initiative that is happening in Barbados right now.
Yes, we are. Because, adding 1 million trees at some point in time, some of the trees will be planted near power lines. So our interest is that we would like to be able to explain, when you plant the trees, make sure they're not planted underneath the power lines. And if you must plant them under the power lines, make sure the species of the trees, not to be technical, is such that it's not a tree that grows tall. So I know they have options of trees, well, I don't know, but I think they have options of trees that don't grow to the point of, say, 20 feet that would impact even on not only Leighton Power, but telephone and all the other communications.
Well, so let's find out more about this. And so today I've brought to the studio Dr. Chelston Brathwaite, and he's actually the coordinator of the project, the National Tree Planting Project. Welcome, Chelston.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here, and good afternoon to all.
Well, I'd like to learn more about this project. Tell me.
The Million Trees Project was initiated by our Prime Minister, the Honorable Mia Motley, as a response to the challenges we face in climate change. The reality is that trees represent an important and a cheap way of reducing carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, which are, in fact, a real threat to the global initiatives of controlling climate change. Most countries around the world today are considering the planting of trees as a legitimate response to reduce carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere and so reduce global warming and reduce the effects of climate change.
So tell me exactly what are the benefits to us as Barbadians?
As Barbadians, we are affected by climate change because we're an island nation. And we have recognized all the global information indicate that sea levels are rising. As an island nation, we are worried about the fact that as sea level rises, it could affect our beaches, our coastline considerably, and we could get saltwater intrusion into our aquifers. Part of that reality has already been expressed in islands around the world. In the Malvinas, for example, they're building a seawall because they're worried about the increase in the height of the ocean as a result of the melting of the glaciers. And so we must be concerned because, in a real sense, being an island nation, a water-scarce country, we have to protect our water resources and we have to protect our shoreline because that is part of our tourism product, part of our tourism industry, part of our tourism asset. Our beaches are critical to the future of our tourist industry. So we must be worried about climate change. We must be worried about anything that happens that affects the sea level rise. Therefore, by planting 1 million trees, we are helping to reduce the impact of climate change and the potential impact that climate change has on our tourism industry and our shorelines.
So now that I understand the benefits, what are the guidelines for individuals, for organizations, as they consider planting trees?
Well, let us begin by saying that this is a joint venture between the government and the people. This is a national project in which we expect that individuals in Barbados and all Barbadians will contribute and participate. The general guidelines is you must plant a tree for purpose. In other words, if you're planting a tree, you have to have a reason for planting the tree. Either it's for shade, or it's for food, or it's protection, or it's for conservation, or it's for celebration. And therefore, we wish to be able to ensure that when you plant a tree, it is a long-term investment, because trees live for a long time. You don't want to plant it too near to your home, because in fact, the roots may undermine the foundation of your house. You don't want it to plant it too near to power lines, because it's a threat to the electricity supply. You don't want to plant it too near to water lines, or to culverts, or to stop signs, because at the end of the day, these trees may live for a long time. There are trees in Barbados that have been here for 200 years. Right. And consequently, since trees live a long time and they grow, you plant it as a seedling, but it gets bigger, you have to anticipate its growth and anticipate the amount of space that will occupy over time. So we say, plant a tree for purpose. Plant it in a place taking into consideration its long-term development and the impact that it will have on the environment around you.
Well, I'm so glad you told me that. So just as much attention as I give to the building of my house, I should give to the planting of my tree, right?
Yes, and trees are a little bit like children. You have to take care of them, especially when they're young. You cannot plant a tree and walk away and leave it. It has to be taken care of, especially the supply of water in the early stages until it becomes mature. As I indicated earlier, we're planting trees for purpose. We're planting trees for food security. We're planting trees for conservation. We're planting trees for beautification. We're planting trees for shade. We're planting trees for celebration. And so in the development of the project, we are deciding and selecting where we plant the trees in order to respond to the different situations. If we are working with schools, a lot of the trees that we're going to plant by schools are for beautification, and some are for the development of tropical fruit orchards, so that children in school can get to understand our fruits, our mangoes, our bananas, our soursop, our golden apples, etc., and become familiar with these fruits as part of their nutrition. Some of the Barbados cherry, for example, has 100 times more vitamin C than an orange. And we need to promote trees such as that can make a contribution to our diet and can also help us attack the non-communicable diseases by increasing the amount of vitamins and reducing the amount of sugar that is in our diet. So there are trees for everything, for shade, and I also mentioned trees for celebration. Plant a tree for your birthday. Plant a tree for your son's birthday. Plant a tree for your marriage. Plant a tree for your relationship. Plant a tree for love of country. All of this is part of what we're promoting because it has social value and it's an important contribution to the development of our country.
Dr. Chelston, I'm so glad we're having a conversation. I want to turn back to you now, Dr. Nika. So from our point of view, what tips would we have for people now who want to participate in this project? How should they analyze their surroundings? How should they plant?
As I mentioned before, it is us too, but it's also the telecommunications company. So when you plant trees, you have to be aware, as we say, planting for purpose, you have to be aware of how tall the tree grows. I know, and this is something you can walk into the plant nursery and ask, how tall does this tree grow? We do not want you to plant trees under power lines, but I will reiterate that that's the first choice, not to plant it near power lines. But if you must, make sure it's a tree that doesn't grow, let me say, more than 10 feet. Because as I mentioned before, it's not only our lines, but it's like telecommunications. When the trees get raveled into the telecommunication lines, it causes an issue with the service to you.
So last time you were here, we talked a lot about the geographic information system and how you would identify trees and trees that need cutting and trees as they grow and all that. So how do you anticipate that this 1 million tree project will impact that system?
Now, when we look at, now we have a clear understanding of the project. It's not only, remember the focus, as you mentioned, is planting for purpose. And not, if you plant in a tree in your backyard, that won't really, matter to us. The only issue will be when you plant a tree near the power line. And if it is that you plant a tree near the power line and it's not a tall tree, that wouldn't really matter to us. And we would not know about this tree until most likely you report it or we do an inspection, it grows into the power line. So this will impact us like maybe 5-10 years down the line, depending on the growth rate or depending on the maturity of the tree at which you plant.
I'm going to enjoy this project, Dr. Chelston, and I'm sure that you will want to engage Nika a lot more as you go and talk to other people in the community and as they get interested in planting trees. So again, I want to ask you, where are you getting these 1 million trees from, and maybe at what cost?
We have in Barbados two major nurseries, the National Conservation Commission and the Soil Conservation Project in the Scotland District. And they produce seedlings on a regular basis. What we're doing is increasing their capacity at this stage in order to ensure that they can produce the number of seedlings that are required. In addition, of course, we will be dependent on private nurseries. There are a large number of private nurseries in Barbados who also produce seedlings. A lot of the private nurseries, a lot of their emphasis on vegetable seedlings, but nevertheless, there's some of them that also produce trees, and we'll also be dependent on them. There is the possibility of looking to import some trees where we do not have the capacity or the varieties that respond to our need. Now, if we do that, we're going to take all necessary precautions to ensure that we follow proper quarantine protocols to ensure that in the process of importation, no pests or diseases are introduced into our country.
I'm sure.
But to the extent that we are seeking to plant this 1 million trees, we are confident that we can produce the variety or the majority of that number here in Barbados.
Any idea how many you've planted so far?
So far, since we initiated the project, we have planted about 5,000 trees already. We started in St. Lucie as part of the link to the We Gathering initiative, and we've planted 5,000 trees already in St. Lucie.
And I'm sure that doesn't include the 200 planted by Leighton Power just a week or so ago. So you know what? I think this is really an example of a good partnership and a good opportunity for us to support you. So that is us, meaning the Barbados Leighton Power Company, supporting you and the National Tree initiative. So we will get together again. We will talk more about this. We will help you, and Dr. Nika will help Dr. Chelston, I'm sure, as we take this project into the community. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And joining me now is Joyanne Haigh from Haigh Communications. Joyanne, what's your role in this project?
Thank you, Jackie, for having me. Our role with the replanting project is simply to help coordinate the public relations. Now, even though we are responsible for the PR, we want to get the entire country involved and let them be the face of this project. So we are there to lend them support, the communities, the schools, the groups, people in the neighborhoods, just the average person that we are going to be reaching out to. So most of what we will be doing will be on the ground and mobilizing people and encouraging them to plant. I want to say, though, I want to thank the Barbados Leighton Power for being the first utility company to join with us, and we look forward to a long relationship with you. As Dr. Brathwaite indicated, it's going to be a long-term project. It's not going to just be 2020. It's going to be a little bit longer as trees need some time to grow.
I'm sure we've generated quite a bit of interest alone from today. So tell me, how can people get started?
Well, they can go on to the website of the National Conservation Commission. That is www.nccbarbados.com. We will be launching a Facebook page in February, middle February, so they can listen out for that. But of course, we need some support financially. So we would love Barbadians to come and donate some money. And there is an account set up at the Republic Bank, Broad Street, and the account number is 018018732001. And of course, we have a hotline because you may want some information about how to plant your trees. It's 536-TREE, 536-8733.
Got you. So, I keep remembering that poem. No, it's a nursery rhyme. Mary, Mary, quite contrary.
How does your garden grow?
How does your garden grow?
With silver bells. Well, let's hope that it's with silver bells and that we do need the financial support. I will say that much. And part of our job at Haigh Communications is to obviously go to corporate sponsors like yourself and to ask for some assistance. And it doesn't only have to be financial. It could be just participating and beautifying your building. So if you can't afford to give us financial support, then hopefully you can purchase some trees from the NCC directly and then beautify your organization on the outside.
So Joyanne, if you live somewhere where you can't plant a tree, is there a common space that we can possibly plant the trees in for community or otherwise?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because that's where the community involvement comes from, the community centers in the neighborhood. So if you can't plant in your backyard, and let's just say we're planting for food security, you should be able to have some mango trees and apple trees at the community center. Also, I'm sure there are a lot of people there who want to help, that they would have some land that they're not using. They might be able to allow us. And it's happening all now. People are asking for us to come and plant a tree on their land, and there's no house there. So they getting involved too and saying, look, you know what? There's a chance to clean up your property that you're not using and utilize it then to plant some trees.
Well, we will not only be following the progress, we will be supporting your project as we go through the year. Thank you so much, Joyanne.
Thank you, too.
I'm Jackie Marshall-Clark, Manager of Communications and Government Relations at the Barbados Leighton Power Company. I was speaking with Dr. Nika Archer, Engineering Manager at Leighton Power, Dr. Chelston Brathwaite, Coordinator of the National Tree Planting Project, and Joyanne Haigh of Haigh Communications. If you want more information about the We Gathering National Tree Planting Project, the website is wegatherinbarbados.com. What's New Radio is broadcast on radio the first week in every month and repeated again in the last week of every month. You can listen again to this interview on our website, blpc.com.bb. What's New Radio Extra Time. Connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, BLPC Online, or tweet BLPC, or call 626-4300 for customer assistance. Till next time, bye for now.
This program was produced for the Barbados Leighton Power Company by SFA Communications.